We've talked about a lot of early computer companies here on Vintage Geek, but one that we have not covered yet is Wang Laboratories. Today we're going to take a look at the end of the run for Wang right here on Vintage Geek. Just a reminder, if you like what you see today, please like and subscribe. We put a lot of work, resources, and effort into each and every one of our videos, and one thing that helps us out a lot is becoming a Vintage Geek member. You can do that at the website. It's just under $20 a year, and you get access to all of our content ad-free, vintagegeek.com. Wang Laboratories was a big name in computers, and we really haven't covered any Wang machines here on the channel. But I thought today, instead of going to the very beginning of the line for Wang, we would take a look at what they were doing at the end of the line. They actually went bankrupt in August of 1992, and this particular machine we're looking at today has a date stamp of June of that year, so this would have been one of the last machines that the original Wang Laboratories actually produced. This is the System 3450. It's a 386 SX model with 25 megahertz of processing power. From what I can tell, it looks like a pretty standard 386 class machine from the era. It doesn't have a lot of features that would distinguish it from the rest of the crowd at the time, but there are some things here that I think are going to be unique to this particular machine, and that's why I want to take a closer look at it both on the outside, and I want to pop the cover off and take a look at the inside as well. So let's get into it right here on Vintage Geek. Starting with the front of the case, it does have both types of floppy drive, the 5 1/4 and the 3.5 inch, and it looks like those are both high density models according to the spec sheet that's attached. Also on the front panel of this machine is a full speaker, and it also has some audio ports directly below that speaker. This is actually unique to me because there's no sign of a sound card that I've seen in the computer, so this must have been something that was part of the motherboard. Other than that, we've got a power switch, we've got a hard drive and a power indicator. It kind of has an off-white look to everything. Again, nothing really stands out from other computers of the time period. One thing I noticed right away looking at the backplane of this computer is that it does not have any expansion cards currently installed in it. It looks like there are 6 slots total. Also, looking across the bottom, there are a number of different connectors. We start out with a couple of phone type connectors, so it does look like it may have had a modem on board on the motherboard. According to the spec sheet, it's a 9600 baud modem that came with this unit. We also have your PS2 style keyboard and mouse connectors, and then we go through kind of a standard line of connectors, including a parallel port for printing, a serial port for standard I/O, and then we have the VGA connector. And I do note that that is a Super VGA. They actually put that specifically on the specs. That would have been a pretty good video card to have included on a motherboard of a machine at this time, so I'm kind of impressed by that. You've got a standard power supply, nothing really out of the ordinary here. It looks like a typical 386 of the time, so I want to see what this looks like inside to kind of compare that to other models that would have been similar. At first glance, things do look pretty clean inside this particular machine, which is great. I was kind of expecting to see a lot of dust fly out of this. It's organized pretty neatly overall. There's a nice little diagram on top of the frame that shows kind of where everything is on the motherboard and how it's all arranged. Expansion slot wise, it turns out that there are actually only 5 slots. One of those slots is 8-bit only, the one at the end, and the other ones are the 16-bit type. So that last actual frame opening would not be able to accommodate a card from what I can tell. There are 2 SIM slots for memory. Our tech Justin did take a look at this prior to filming today and told me that the RAM had been upgraded at some point in this machine, so it's not the original configuration, and according to the diagram, the ROM BIOS would be on the far right side, which would actually be underneath the power supply. You've got the 2 floppy drives that are connected, and you've got this front piece with the speaker. It has kind of its own ancillary card that's connected to the motherboard via a ribbon cable. And again, I'm not really sure what that audio card is, if that's any kind of a standard sound card for the time that was just embedded, or if that's something specific to Wang Laboratories. Hard drive wise, it does use a Seagate model, and it's actually oriented to the side of the floppy disk drives. Looks like that Seagate is a model ST3144A. I'm not sure the exact capacity on that, but I think I read that it was about 125 megabytes. The power supply in this machine is an ITT model power supply, and other than that, everything looks pretty standard except for one glaring thing about the motherboard that is actually the first thing I noticed, and that is that there is a giant melted area on the math coprocessor slot. Now this particular machine was designed to be able to accommodate an 8387 math coprocessor, which would have been the companion to the 386 main processor. But in this particular machine, that slot is very badly melted, and I'm not really sure how that would have happened. To be honest, it looks more like someone left a soldering iron sitting on the side of it or something. It's only in one spot, and I can't imagine that having a math coprocessor in there would create that kind of heat, especially in that one area. I have to assume that that was someone working on the machine that maybe made a mistake. I'm not sure, but I do know that the machine does fire up as normal, so whatever happened there, it is not negatively impacting the machine's performance at the moment. We just probably can't ever put in the math coprocessor because I don't see how there's a way we can make it fit with all that melted plastic. So our Wang EXEC 386 is all set up and ready to go. Let's hit the power switch and see what happens. All right, looks like a standard opening here. We've got our RAM checks going on. The BIOS is by Quadtel, version 1.0.0. It does look like the RAM's been upgraded. Originally this would have come with 2 megs, but this is counting up to what I assume is probably 10 megs of RAM that someone's installed in this machine over the years. So it's gonna have a little bit more capability than its base configuration. And the CMOS battery is dead.
Error has occurred.
What a soothing voice. Now that's something unique to this particular computer. I don't remember any 386s actually having a voice telling you when something was wrong in the BIOS. And I guess that's something they could have done because having the sound attached to the motherboard would give them that capability within the BIOS. So let's see what happens when we go into setup here. CMOS checksum is invalid. Got quite a menu of things here in the BIOS. Let's take a look at the setup first of all, and it's showing our memory here, showing that it's January 1st, 1988. You know, that's not quite accurate, but with a dead battery, I guess that's what we should expect. The 2 floppy drives are configured properly here. Looks like we're gonna have to tell it what kind of fixed disk we have. I believe it's type 39. We'll give this a try. It's 125 megs of capacity. Seems to be booting from the hard drive, so that's great. Doing some drive analysis. Windows 3.1. That would have come with this machine. It did ship with MS-DOS 5 and Windows 3.1. That's a cool background. It's got the Wang logo on it. I gotta love early Windows. Really brings me back for sure. Looks like we've got a bunch of different program groups here. So we've got new DOS and new Win, Speed Disk, Norton Disk Doctor. Oh, and you've got a lot of different programs here to do editing for your INI files. It's got an INI advisor. New Win probably means Norton Utilities. Should have picked up on that the first time. Also the icons from Windows 3.1 are fantastic. Look at the Disk Doctor. He's ready to do some surgery on your hard drive right here. Let's see what we've got in MS Office if this has the full suite installed on it. Okay, so it's got Microsoft Access. Looks like that may be the only Microsoft program that it has. Doesn't look like it even has Word or Excel. Then we've got WordPerfect for Windows 6.0, and that's got the setup file, WordPerfect. It's got a file indexer. And Kickoff, that sweet rocket logo. I like that. What do we have in main? Standard Windows things, control panel, file manager. I'm going to take a look at control panel because I'm really curious about how it recognizes this sound card. This is kind of a mystery for me. Sound. The sound is functional with Windows. It's too bad there's not a You've Got Mail sound. That would have been cool. Okay, so it actually is the Wang waveform driver. Interesting. And I noticed as I was clicking on this, there's actually a separate control panel for Wang audio. So it looks like you can pick your input source. There's a microphone jack on the front of the unit as well as a line in. So you could actually pick that in the control panel here. And it looks like you could record in PCM or 80 PCM mode. And it does have a volume control slider on here as well. That would have been kind of ahead of its time. Shortcuts. Let's see. Desktop. See what that screensaver looks like. Oh yeah, there's some classic Windows 3.1 right there. Even better about some flying windows. Flying is definitely an overstatement. They are very gradually moving toward me. But hey, it works. I'm not sure where to find the actual video drivers to see what that's using. I'm not sure if it's actually using an SVGA mode or not. I was hoping there'd be some applications from the original install. There's the Wang answering machine. And Wang answers. Well, let's find that out. What does this do? Provides the latest information about your Wang exec system and provides answers to the most commonly asked questions. Well, I'm going to need a phone line for this, so it's probably not going to happen today. But apparently you could make your computer be your answering machine if you connected a phone line. It says there's a file on the hard drive called exec MMMM, where that would be the model number, which contains a list of all the files pre-installed on your drive. Now, I will mention at this point that we do have an entire box of disks that came with this system, and there are a ton of them, but none of them seem to have anything to do with Windows or kind of your general day-to-day functions, but more look like they're for advanced database applications and things like that. So I'm not going to dive into that, but we do have a lot of software for this machine. Also worth noting at this point is that this did come with the original Wang monitor, and it looks good. It's a good looking VGA monitor. Everything looks straight. There's no waviness or anything, which is great. And it does look like we have a copy of Works for Windows on this machine, and it is in fact licensed to valued Wang customer. So looks like this is part of the original install. Of course, Microsoft Works has your word processing, spreadsheet, database. I definitely remember using Microsoft Works back in the Windows 3.1 days. Everything works as I would expect. Let's see if we can do some font sizing with this. That was a little slow to do it, but it did do it. Monologue for Windows. This was another pre-installed piece of software. So there's 3 modes: Excel, Clipboard, and DDE Server. Well, let's do a sample.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay. It supports WAV files, but it does not support MIDI file formats, which I guess makes sense. It's probably a super basic card, and it can do ADPCM or PCM, which we already knew. I don't know. It doesn't say anything about how to use Monologue with it, though. If any of you out there have used the Monologue program for Windows 3.1, maybe you could sound off in the comments below and let me know how to actually use that. It seems like it'd be kind of a neat feature. So as far as games, we've got the standard Windows installed version of Solitaire and Minesweeper. And just to give us a little bit better test, we've got Test Drive 3 that we've installed on this Wang PC. Want to see what that'll do for us and kind of show off some of the performance features of this machine. So let's give it a try. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet image of a Ferrari. I will say that the rendered version of the car on screen is a far cry from the photo image that we just saw. Driver, I guess? Skill level 1, that sounds about right. Race against computer cars, okay. We'll go with the Chevy. All right, so I guess if we just hit enter on this, we'll start playing. So it says to use the Pacific Yosemite wheel, which I have here. Viper, suspension, 1135, 1135. Right, okay. Well, the car interior graphics look great. Not sure I can say the same for the actual road and external scene. Oh God. Oh no. Well, I've got 4 lives left. That's encouraging. Let's go ahead and get back on the road. I don't know why, but this reminds me of, oh God, did not see that one coming. Just go ahead and get out of the way of that person. Nope. It's very finicky. This game reminds me a lot of a game that I played at 7-Eleven when I was just a kid. There was an arcade game. I just remember putting the quarters in and I would get, you know, down the road, not even what would be the equivalent of a block before I'd hit the side of a barn or something, because the controls were just very demanding and I was not good at it, that's for sure. Definitely getting that feeling from this particular game. Hey, there's the barn. I found it. Oh God. I promise, officer, I haven't been drinking today. Just haven't figured out how to drive this car. See, the billboard says don't drink and drive. It's like it heard me speaking. Is that a bear or a cow? Oh God. Oh boy. This is your last life. Oh, well, no wonder, the speed limit's only 35. According to the speedometer, I'm going, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100. It's a little bit hard to tell. The window shattering is great though. I do love that effect. I really like the work they've put into the actual driving controls and the kind of cockpit view, if you will, of the dashboard and everything. It looks good for a game of this era. I think this came out in 1990, so a couple of years before this particular PC came out. But, you know, it's a fun play, and I like what they've attempted to do here. Let's see our scorecard. It's not looking great. I did hit 121 miles per hour, probably before I hit that police officer, which was not good. Oh, good. There's several next sections here that I could try to get to. Fantastic. We got 1,406 points, but I lost. Better luck next time. Fair. And there you have it, the Wang EXEC 3450. Glad I got a chance to use this machine today and kind of see what it was all about. This was again the end of the line for Wang Laboratories. After that they got acquired, I believe, by another company, and they very soon ceased to exist. But this was kind of one of their last models, and I really wanted to get a feel for what they were doing in the PC space toward the end of their run. And it looks like overall it was a fairly high quality machine. It would have been very comparable to others at the time. It just probably didn't have a lot of lasting life because it wasn't that much different than anything available on the market. If you have any memories of this particular Wang computer, if you had one of these, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Always fun to find other people's stories about machines like this. And speaking of which, if you like vintage technology and computers, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And I would also ask if you would consider becoming a Vintage Geek member. You can do that at our website. It's under $20 a year and you get access to all of our content ad-free. It helps us out a lot, and you can do it at vintagegeek.com. Until next time, I'm Aaron, and this has been Vintage Geek.